not only is our executive system failing us, our judicial and legislators are failing us because they're willing to let people die to further their personal cause and their personal pocket, and that's not what democracy should be.
This week I'm in Washington D.C. interviewing protesters to find out their political agenda. Just hit the fan politically, and I'm about to get to the bottom of it. I'm Jack Reichert, and this is Excuse Me What.
My body, my choice. And I do get the Trumpers that come out here and they say, well, it's my body, my choice for my vaccine, which I reply, well, my pregnancy is not catching and not fatal to you. It's planning session right now. The big march called upon us for a summer of rage and protest. And so we're organizing and deciding exactly how that's going to look. And then, of course, there's protests also happening at the justices' houses.
Yes. How'd you guys find their houses?
And I believe a list doxed them and they already got in trouble for it. Trying to just channel that into taking the movement back home with them, showing that demonstrating is really not that scary.
Excuse me? Why are y'all here?
Well, bring back our constitutional republic and morality, but you can't have one without the other. Because what we have now is
We are not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic.
So those people in that Honda Civic just said that we are not a democracy, we are a constitutional republic. There's a guy with a really long beard. That was out of control. You could braid that. There's a whole convoy of them. Let's try and get to the bottom of it.
12828 Winchester Avenue, Bunker Hill, West Virginia. Come hang out with the cool ass patrons.
They love us because I saluted them. Shh. I think that's a reference to the Battle of Bunker Hill. I know that because I took AP World History. Megan and Amelia, why are you guys out here today?
The state of our government fucking sucks, and someone needs to tell them that the people are unhappy.
Yesterday, an elementary school got shut up. As soon as I saw that, I knew that I would have to come out here and say something. I don't know what else I can do at this point other than literally just stand in front of the fucking building and say, hey, we need change, you know? There was a woman in the middle of the pro-choice. She just came up and she was like, pro-life, and I got in her face. I was like, this is completely unacceptable. No, like, you're so outnumbered here.
Marnie, what brought you out here this morning?
I'm 76 years old. I grew up on a farm. We had guns. We had a .22 leaning in that corner. We had a shotgun over there. I'm not afraid of guns. It's the people who are getting the guns. And an AK-47 is an assault weapon. You don't go deer assaulting. You only assault people. It's just so horrendous that we don't have background checks. This young man would have been denied had they looked into his background, his troubled background. It's just the basic minimum. This kid can't go out and buy a beer, but he can get a gun. He can't adopt a cat without a background check. A background check and 19 kids would be at recess. I'm outraged. The NRA has so much money, so much influence. When's it gonna stop?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When you say those words or hear them, you're actually in God's presence.
Why is he the one singing it, not you?
He has the instrument and all that, and he kind of works better by himself. The Hare Krishna movement actually teaches what truth is. Once you take on your spiritual body, you go to the spiritual realm, you don't come back again. You stay about 20 years old. Or you look 20 years old.
But you're as old as time.
But it's it's a different type of body that doesn't deteriorate. Many of us have been around millions of lifetimes.
How long have you been protesting out here?
1981. My godfather was here in 1978 with picket signs, and then on June 3rd of 1981, he started a 24-hour-a-day protest. I did the paperwork for a protest at Los Angeles City Hall in 1974 against the Vietnam War. I'm old enough to remember the hippie movement. The hippie movement, it was like more peace, love, rise above. I didn't like the way they treated our returning veterans. The spitting, that's the one part that I didn't like about the hippie movement. Actually, back then, I mean, if your number was called, you were drafted into the war. Now you don't even have to have the license to carry.
Yeah, I know. I grew up in Texas.
I'm glad you made it out alive. I don't know what he had against those fourth graders. The guy was psychologically deranged, yet in the state of Texas, No one has to have a psychological review to buy a gun.
What have been the issues that you've been protesting specifically?
Specifically for reproduction rights and Roe v. Wade. I have 2 kids of my own. They are wonderful, but it couldn't be that way if I had had them earlier. For true equality, women need to have control over their reproductive systems. It's interesting, we often discuss how the pro-life team is really not pro-life because they're not for taking care of the children once they're born, and they're not for regulating guns and help controlling gun violence in this country. They're coming for everybody's rights. It's not just women, it's not just African Americans, it's going to be gay marriage, it's going to be contraception. Last week we had the Freedom Convoy come through, and you still see some stragglers from that.
My mother, who's a public school teacher, at this point she's risking her life every day trying to teach kids and working with a public school system that's failing their teachers and students. There's my aunts who have been brave enough to have a same-sex relationship, same-sex marriage, go to these protests for years.
Being in a world where there's a patriarchy, I feel like every day just shapes my worldview.
What's your response to people who think that we should arm our teachers?
If you look at what happened in Texas, they have an independent police system, and fucking 18 or 19 people still lost their lives. More guns doesn't make anyone safer.
I think that minorities would suffer from that. If teachers were to have guns, that's just more people having guns. I don't think that more guns will help.
And if you guys could deliver a message directly to anyone in Congress or anyone in the Supreme Court, what would you guys tell them?
You don't control me, and you never will, and you should stop trying, because I will fight back every step of the way.
People's lives aren't politics, and people are dying because of your policies.
Support disability rights.
Don't watch Fox News.
That's the one.
Why are you in front of the Supreme Court?
So I'm working to talk about gay and trans rights and the increasing lack of protections that the queer community has been facing as of recently. The amount of anti-LGBT bills has increased by a 5-fold. So
I see. And how'd you get involved with this?
I am looking to work in nonprofit organizations. I'm also gay myself, so this is something that's near and dear to my heart. There's so much increasing pushback.
And where would you say you fall sort of like on the political side of things?
I'm very much to the left. When I'm working out here on the street, I get to meet a lot of really awesome people. Unfortunately, I am motivated by all of the hate as well.
How are you guys doing today, Tilly and SK?
Pretty upset. Upset about everything.
What are you guys upset about?
The shooting from last night, the shooting from last week, 19 children. I really don't know what to do with that. This is not new. This is probably the 3rd or 4th time this is happening in the last 20 years. That is awful. I was here in D.C. 4 years ago marching in March for Our Lives, and I felt super empowered, and I was like, this is it. We're going to make this change. And now I'm here 4 years later, and nothing has changed at all. I just don't know what it's going to take for them to realize that guns do not have more value than lives. If that's not going to move needles, and I honestly don't know if it will, I have no faith in this country, if that's where we're at.
Do you have faith in this country?
I want so badly to believe in the democratic process. I'm not sure. I feel really shaken in my faith for this country. In the long run, when we put people in office, and they make all these promises, are they going to follow through on what they promised that they said they do when we would vote for them?
Oh my gosh, you have to vote. Your democracy is not free. You can lose it. Oh, please don't take it for granted. I think we're on our way unless you just get on the stick. Get 5 of your friends to go out and vote. I don't know, I'm just losing hope on this stuff. I'm almost glad I'm old because I'm just sick of it. Do you think if the guy in Buffalo, there had been a background check and his media had been looked at, that he would have gotten a gun? That's an embarrassment around the globe. The Australians, those guys are macho guys, but they banned assault weapons when there was one massacre. One, that's all it took. Last time I came down here with a sign was the day after Helsinki, when Trump kissed Putin's butt, and I stood in front of the White House with a sign that said, "Putin's puppet lives here." Sometimes I think when you're just down as a Lone Ranger, people come up and talk to you more.
If I don't get everything I want by the time I die, I want somebody to pick up the baton. Once you see the ethical value in what that person's protest was about, keep it going.
Are there any movements or aspects to society that you think people aren't paying enough attention to?
Climate change, getting us, for the most part, off big fossil fuels. Things about the environment, but also the human rights violations throughout the planet, man. People have to start evolving and being humane instead of just staying human, be satisfied with being human. Until with liberty and justice for all until law enforcement understands that all doesn't mean your selected group, then we'll say Black Lives Matter. We've had evolution throughout the time of human history, and now we're stuck. If anyone thinks they can pursue happiness, it's still in the hands of the leaders of nations that have a nuclear bomb, and they can just press that trigger.
Do you guys think the American dream exists?
There's systemic barriers to reaching the American dream that affect mostly marginalized communities. I think it's really dangerous for us to perpetuate this American dream idea, because that's not how this country works, and this country is not actually built on hard work, and the idea that if you just work hard you'll make it, that's not true.
The pandemic hit in 2020 and my mom kind of felt the dream completely fall away. That was a big smack in the face in a lot of ways, oh, this dream is fragile, it could break at any point, and you don't know if the system is there to catch you or not, you know?